like we need to sleep until 11:30. Still waking up. I am taking my prenatals, and on top of that I add a little bit of omegas and vitamin D.
I think it's really important for Allie to do a second trimester recap, so that's what this video is all about, and also what she's expecting for the third trimester, and even what I'm expecting. When we first found out we were pregnant, we watched a ton of videos like this, and it feels really cool to be here now, making our own.
It's pretty surreal. I can't believe it's already been like 6 months, longer than that. I'm 28 weeks in 1 day today, and I just slept until 11:30. I got some pregnancy insomnia in the second trimester, and it has definitely carried on over to the third trimester. The past few nights, what I've realized is that every night is different, every day is different. In the past few nights, it's taken me a while to fall asleep, but then I sleep until very late. So at least I'm getting my rest. Dan shattered his pelvis in my late first trimester, just as I was starting to overcome all of the morning sickness.
Oh, no pain anywhere else with the left side?
So we started off the second trimester on a little bit of a rough foot. We weren't sure what Dan's healing process was gonna look like, and thankfully I was starting to get a little bit more energy so I could spend more time out of bed. So moving a little bit forwards, I started to have extreme back pain, and it was such extreme back pain that I wasn't entirely sure. It was during the sort of week that it was happening, I was not well. It put me in a pretty bad mind frame, to be honest, because it was so uncomfortable. I couldn't lay, I couldn't stand, I couldn't sit without feeling extreme pain in my lower back and hip area. And I think that I was stretching and moving because that's right around when I popped. Going to the chiropractor changed my life. I had only 3 adjustments just because of how much time we had, and the one where you're laying on your side and he kind of twists you like that was amazing, but the one that really I needed was where they like pull your leg. My mom said that she was watching me, and I just like lit up in a big smile when he did that because I was in so much pain. My body just wasn't figuring out what to do. And that was the best thing I've ever done. My first trimester, I spent up to 18 hours a day in bed, to be completely honest. I felt awful. I really didn't throw up that much. I was just I felt very, very sick, and I didn't want to do anything that would exacerbate it. So I ate a lot to try and keep the vomit down, if you will. And honestly, I think that helped. I gained quite a lot of weight in my first trimester, like 17 pounds. Yeah, and now in my second trimester, I've probably only gained 5 to 10 pounds. I'm up 24 pounds right now. So yeah, 7 pounds in my second trimester. The first trimester, I laid in bed a lot. I was really tired, but mainly I just didn't want to move and feel sick. In the second trimester, I had a lot more energy. I was able to start exercising every day. I also took the dogs for a walk every day. I actually made a list on my phone to make it a little bit easier to remember everything. Another symptom that started in my second trimester was heartburn. I didn't have any of this in the first trimester, and I've had it a little bit in the past, but there was nothing quite like pregnancy heartburn. I would have like episodes of where I couldn't actually think or talk or do anything until it calmed down. And I didn't want to take Tums because there's aluminum in them and they are dyed. So I started taking papaya enzymes, and they help, but they're not like a perfect cure. And I still have the heartburn going into my third trimester, and it's not, for me, I haven't realized it's at any particular food that offsets it or doesn't or whatever. Basically for me, I would start getting it like every day at like 6 p.m. and then it would go away for a few days, and I would start getting it in the mornings, and it was just like a strange thing that I had no control or there was no sort of rhyme or reason to it, I guess. During my second trimester, I felt pretty energized and I was able to go and do most anything and everything that I was able to do before I was pregnant. But when it came time for bed, I was really ready for bed and I was exhausted from the day. That's when the insomnia started to set in. So a little bit more on that is I would sometimes have trouble falling asleep because I would be thinking about all of the things that we need to do or what our life is going to look like, or I'm not concerned about my birth or anything by that means, but there's just a lot to think about. And of course I would read before bed and it'd be like a baby book, and then I would be thinking about that. So I think I had to kind of stop reading at night because it would like get my brain thinking. And then I definitely started taking Unisom to help me fall asleep, and that is a total game changer because if I was able to fall asleep, yeah, I had to get up and pee, but I could kind of like not turn the lights on and just walk to the bathroom and go to the bathroom and be done with it and go back to bed and fall asleep fairly quickly, thankfully. Insomnia sucks. It's really awful because you're just laying there knowing that you need rest, knowing that you need your body to be able to do all these things the next day, and you're just wide awake thinking about whatever is on your mind. In the second trimester, I finally popped. Right around 20 weeks, I finally started to show and not just feel kind of like I had gained weight, and it started to almost look a little bit like a bump. And then by week like 24, it was like, yeah, I look pregnant. At least to my friends and family. Some people are still like, you still don't look so big, or you're so tiny or whatever. But I look very pregnant to myself, and I do not fit in my normal clothes. And I have not fit in my normal clothes since at least like 20-some weeks, 22 weeks maybe. And the best thing about the second trimester is that you start feeling her kick. And that's a game changer, because once you know that she's in there and she's moving around and you're assured every day that she's safe and she's healthy and she's, I don't know, hopefully comfortable and happy in there, then it's a lot easier to deal with all the other symptoms. The only thing with the kicking and the sort of little pricks is people were like, oh, it's just like a little flutter or whatever. It didn't feel like a little flutter to me. It was like a girlfriend explained it that she was like flicking, and then I started to feel that. The trouble was she started to kick at night when I was trying to fall asleep. So I started to look at ways to try and help her relax and go to bed so that I could go to bed. Dan has obviously gotten to feel her kick, and sometimes now we can push and have her kick back. My dad, my mom, some of my friends, and my sister have been able to feel her, so that's all been really fun to share. Now moving into my third trimester, I am really excited because we're nearing the end. I think one of the best things for me is we had a baby shower. My aunts and my mom and my grandma and my sister, my stepmom, of course, and all of my girlfriends from Michigan were there. And being surrounded by so much love, which actually happened in one of my most uncomfortable weeks of pregnancy, where I went to the chiropractor and finally got some relief. But it happened to me at such an important point that it really, really reminded me of how much she's loved and how many of these other women have gone through pregnancy themselves and been through most of these symptoms themselves. And not everybody has a rough go. I would say my pregnancy is maybe leaning a little more towards a rough side. But there has been positives of it as well. So I started my third trimester a week ago, and I got shingles. So shingles is probably not that big of a deal. You know, it's really uncomfortable. Thankful for me, it's not painful. I can really only use the words uncomfortable. But anything that's happening with my body, I'm really obsessed with and like almost concerned about, or I need to look it up or talk to someone or tell Dan or speak with my midwife, because I'm so concerned that any little last movement might not be quite right, it's just, you know, the pregnancy has made me heightened, whereas I wouldn't think of any of this. I'd be like, oh, well, it's just a ache or a pain and strange sensation in my stomach. But now being pregnant and being so far along, I'm just kind of concerned about the different, I guess, symptoms that I'm feeling from the shingles.
In the first trimester, I felt like Allie was just really nauseous and she couldn't do a lot of stuff, but she mostly she obviously looked like herself more than she does now with the change in her body, but she also, I feel like, was a little more grounded maybe in your emotions. I mean, not to say anything, it's been fine, but I feel like in the second trimester, there's been a lot more ups and downs. Like, you know, like your back pain would give you low lows, you know what I mean? And not sleeping would like really bring you down, and obviously that would bring anyone down. That would suck. I feel like the second trimester has been a lot more like up and down. Do you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that when I couldn't sleep and then when I was in so much pain, I was thinking this is definitely going to be my last pregnancy.
It's those little things that I could do to help out. Obviously, like food and running errands or whatever, I'm fine to do that. But even like, you know, sleeping on the couch just because it's easier for her was something that's really easy for me to accommodate. But I think overall, the second trimester has been a lot of fun too. We've been able to travel. Like in first trimester, we were kind of hunkered down because Allie had so much nausea, and it just seems debilitating. I don't know personally, I've never suffered from nausea, but just being with someone who is so debilitated by nausea, where you could go an hour and then had to stop doing whatever activity, was really tough. In the second trimester, we've been able to do a lot more. Obviously, we've been like traveling around in the van. We did a ton of stuff in Michigan. So it really felt like the old Allie physically. When she was able to sleep, that was really helpful. But again, with those ups and downs, Allie did have to rally sometimes in order to kind of make it through some days. I think for Allie and I, what's been on our minds a lot lately in the second trimester, and especially more so now going into the third trimester, I think it's going to get stronger, is like, what do we want our life to look like? What do we want to do with our time? And you know, traveling around and living in a van is great, but it's really not like the most fulfilling thing for us. It's been a fantastic year, and I wouldn't change it for anything. But we definitely have been like developing. I think guys go through this too as they watch their partners go through pregnancy. Is like life starts to become a little more clear, and you have a little more perspective on like what's important. And I know for Allie and I, we've kind of been honing in on that, especially here in McCall, as we've kind of been settled down. So we're looking at, you know, what's the big thing we want to do? What's the long-term thing? What's going to give us stability in our family life and be exciting and be cool to share on YouTube? So we're looking at that right now, and I think we have some pretty cool stuff on the horizon. But that's really been a huge change for both of us in the second and now going into the third trimester, is like our perspective on life.
No, everybody says that there's nothing that can really prepare you for the birth, which is a whole other story we'll share in a totally different episode of what we have planned and envisioned. But there's nothing that can really prepare you for that, or parenthood, or, you know, the love that we're going to be feeling from her basically immediately. And we are it's just like this wild period of like, okay, we're ready, but are we? And it's very surreal to just be like, I don't know, sitting and waiting.
So we hope that this video, the second trimester, going into the third trimester, a recap and what we're expecting, was helpful for moms and dads, because it's definitely something that we're living right now, and we're happy to make a video. Hopefully people get some value from it. So if you guys did, please smash that like button for us. Leave a comment below on what stood out.
Let us know if you have any questions, or maybe you experienced something completely different in your second trimester that we haven't even heard of yet.
Yeah. We'll see you guys in the next video.
Can I tell you what's been on my mind? Sick and tired of the 9 to 5 in the city life. Hey, darling, we could get out of town, see the beautiful world around.